Hello there, and welcome. I'm Jem. And today, I want to invite you on a little walk. Not a lecture, nothing like that, but more of a gentle journey into the landscape of our own minds. We're going to explore something truly special, one of the most profound teachings on peace ever written, the Heart Sutra. You know that feeling, right? Where your mind just feels tangled, overgrown. It's like you're in this dense forest and you can't find the path. Your thoughts are just twisting around you like vines, and there's this low hum of anxiety in the air. It's so easy to feel completely lost in there. Well, that feeling, that exact state of being tangled up inside our own heads, that's what the ancient texts call suffering and distress. And you know what? That's actually where our journey begins today. The Heart Sutra, it starts right there. It sees us, it acknowledges that feeling, and then it shows us a way through.
All right, so let's get into it. If we're going to find a path through this forest, we first have to know what the forest is actually made of, right? What are these trees that seem to be blocking our way? Well, this teaching tells us there are basically 5 of them. So these are called the 5 skandhas. Think of them as the basic ingredients of any given moment of your life. First up, you've got form. That's your body, the ground beneath your feet, the physical stuff. Easy enough. Then feelings, that constant stream of, ooh, I like this, ugh, I don't like that, or just neutral. Next, we have perceptions. This is your mind slapping labels on everything, like blue sky, loud noise, cold. Then, and this one's a big one, mental formations. These are your thoughts, your habits, all the stories you tell yourself. And finally, there's consciousness. That's just the basic awareness that's underneath it all. These 5 things, they all swirl together to create what you feel is you in any moment. And this is where we get to the big secret, the key that unlocks the whole thing. The sutra says that a wise being, a bodhisattva, looked really deeply at these 5 components of self and saw that all of them are empty. And just by seeing that, they were totally freed from all suffering. So what on earth does that mean? What does it mean for them to be empty?
Okay, so this is it. This is the heart of the teaching. Understanding emptiness is how we understand the true nature of our mental forest. And, spoiler alert, it's not about nothingness. It's not a void. It's more like finally noticing the space between all the trees, the very air that connects everything.
Yeah, we really have to reframe that word emptiness. It doesn't mean what we think it means. It means being empty of a separate solid self. Here's a great way to think about it. Look at a cloud. A cloud isn't something on its own, right? It's just a temporary happening of sun and water and wind. It depends on everything else for its existence. The sutra's basically telling us, we're just like that cloud.
Most of the time, we walk around thinking of ourselves as this solid, separate thing, a fixed me that needs to be defended. But this wisdom, it invites us to see ourselves in a totally different light. Not as a fixed object, but as a flowing process, something that's deeply connected to everything and everyone, and is always changing. Kind of beautiful when you think about it.
And when you start to see things this way, the sutra itself kind of becomes this beautiful rhythmic meditation. The hard edges of what you thought was reality start to soften. You see, there's no real birth, no real death, just change. Think about a wave. Does a wave get born from the ocean? Does it die when it hits the shore? No, of course not. It was always just the ocean, just taking on a temporary shape. That's us.
And this poetic breakdown keeps going. The sutra says, no eyes, no ears, no nose. And you think, wait, what? But it's not literal. It means there's no separate eye that does the seeing and no separate ear that does the hearing. Why? Because you can't have one without the other. The seer and what is seen, they're part of the same event. The listener and the sound, they pop into existence together. It's a really radical idea that just dissolves that sense of a solid me in the middle of everything.
And this all leads to a really mind-bending point. In this giant, interconnected dance, even the big concepts we hold on to, like suffering or the path to end suffering, they're not solid things anymore. They're just part of the flow. They're not these concrete problems to be eliminated, but just experiences that rise and fall, like everything else.
So, after walking through all of that, after seeing the forest for what it really is, where does that leave us? Well, it's like we finally emerge from that dense, tangled part of the woods and step into a beautiful, sunlit clearing, a place of light, of clarity, and just peace.
And in this clearing, we find maybe the most powerful line in the whole teaching. It says that because there is no obstruction in the mind, there is no fear. Think about that. When the mind lets go of having to protect this idea of a separate me, all the blockages just dissolve. And when there's nothing in the way, what's there to be afraid of?
I mean, think about it. So much of our fear comes from being attached to things we think are permanent and solid, right? Our reputations, our bodies, our beliefs. But when we truly deeply understand that everything is just part of a temporary flow, that desperate need to cling on for dear life, it just starts to loosen its grip. And in that letting go, that's where we find real freedom.
But the sutra doesn't just leave us there, in that peaceful clearing. It gives us a gift, something to take with us, you know? An echo of this feeling that we can carry back into the hustle and bustle of our regular lives. It gives us a sound, a mantra.
And this is probably the most famous part, the mantra at the very end. Now, it's not a magic spell. It's more like the whole journey summed up in a few words. Gate, gate means gone, gone, like leaving the shore of our usual way of thinking. Paragate means gone beyond. That's going past the illusion of being a separate self. Parasamgate means completely gone beyond, like you've arrived on the other side, the shore of wisdom. And then Bodhiswaha, which is like this joyful exclamation, awakened, yes.
The sutra calls this the supreme mantra, the one that can truly end all suffering. And again, it's not magic. It works more like a tuning fork for your mind. So when you feel yourself getting lost back in that tangled forest of worry, you can repeat it. And it's like it reminds your whole being of that clearing. It helps you remember that feeling of spaciousness and connection and freedom. It's literally the sound of letting go.
And this ancient wisdom has honestly never more needed. In our modern world that's just full of burnout, understanding this idea of emptiness helps us let go of those crazy, rigid expectations we put on ourselves. When so many of us feel isolated, seeing our deep connection to others is a powerful antidote to that loneliness. And with all the stress we face, realizing everything is temporary, it helps us learn to flow with our challenges instead of letting them break us.
So, I'll just leave you with this question. That forest of the mind, it's always going to be there. But the clearing is always there too. Maybe you find it just by noticing your breath for a second. Or maybe it's in a small moment of kindness to someone that makes that feeling of separation just dissolve. So my question for you is, how can you find a little patch of sunlight in your forest today?